Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. You join me on a late Sunday morning here in Whittington. I'm on my way to Ellesmere to start a local loop. Should probably take me no more than an hour or so. It's nothing special today, so there's no drones or sights to see, out of the ordinary. However, I thought I'd film it and just share with you my thoughts on a topic which I've been thinking a lot about lately, in where are all the young riders these days? You know, I read it often in motorcycle magazines and YouTube videos and comments that, you know, there's not many young riders out there these days. And even though I've just turned 40 myself, the motorcycle meets I've been to, or I've certainly felt the youngest by a considerable distance. So we're just going to kind of get into that, talk through some of the main points I think could be holding the industry back, and we'll have a nice little road trip along the way. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so looking at some of the first issues you've got as a new rider, I would say the biggest kind of, well, one of the biggest kind of obstacles you've got, aside from the testing and whatnot, which we'll get into later, is the cost of the actual bike itself. So, you know, don't get me wrong, there are some good deals out there to be had on a lot of the new bikes that are coming through. You know, look at the new Honda Hornet, for example, that's priced to sell. It's a great deal, but you know, and some of the, perhaps the Royal Enfield 350s and the Triumph 400 lines, there's a lot of great deals to be had out there. But if you are a young rider and your disposable income isn't all that great, then you're going to struggle to pick up a new bike. And, you know, what with inflation that's been going on in the world, you know, I don't see bike prices coming down anytime soon. So it's going to be a massive issue that you have. For example, I used to ride a scooter from the age of 16, so I did my CBT when I was 16, and I rode around on a scooter for a couple of years, and I've always wanted to get into motorbikes, you know, even after I passed my driving test. You know, it's something I always wanted to do. However, I had to wait until I was, you know, about 38 until I decided that that is something I really want to do and I'm going to commit to it, because I was a bit more financially stable. You know, I just simply couldn't afford it, you know, in my 20s and, you know, in the early part of my 30s. So that's going to be the biggest issue. I think to combat that, what I would be doing if I was a young rider and, you know, I perhaps passed my test, but didn't quite have enough money to buy you know, a new bike, I'd be looking at things like eBay and Facebook Marketplace and Auto Trader, to try and get like a good deal on there. You know, so before I started the video today, I had a quick scan on Facebook Marketplace, and the closest bike to me that I was interested in is the Royal Enfield Meteor 350. So I think it had about 6,000 miles on the clock, and it looked quite well maintained, full service history with it. And the seller was asking for, I think it was about £2,500. So if you could haggle down that price as well, you know, there are deals to be had out there, but it's still kind of a big issue. And you're never guaranteed to get a good second-hand bike, are you? Especially if you're not buying from the dealer and there's no warranty, and perhaps you can't get a service before you buy it. So there's a lot of things to consider with that one. Okay, so I think the next big issue affecting young riders, it kind of links into the cost side of things again, is the price of the new gear. So everything is just so expensive. You know, from the cost, even you know, a semi-decent jacket now is going to set you back a couple of £100. It just adds up. You know, when you've got the boots, the trousers, the jacket, you know, things like neck scarves, all that kind of thing, helmets as well. You know, you can easily spend thousands of pounds, and it's all essential in my opinion as well, because, you know, I wouldn't go out with anything that's not, you know, top quality and, you know, AAA tested. It's just not worth the risk. You know, what I've had to do is I've had to keep my eye out for bargains. So money off codes for certain motorcycle websites, looking in sales, for things like jackets and trousers, jeans. I'm often looking at on places like eBay, Vinted, things like that. So there are great deals to be had out there, but it can be quite daunting, I find, as a new rider, especially when you're just starting out and you don't really know what you're looking for. So I've had quite a bit of trial and error with my purchases. I think I've pretty much got there now, and I don't need any more kit, certainly for the next couple of years, I don't think. But I have bought some absolute duffers, and that's from just not really knowing what's out there and what brands I should be looking at and what to avoid. I think leading on from that, the cost of like helmets, that's just eye-watering. I'm wearing a Shoei helmet now, Shoei GT Air 2, brand new. I think you're looking at anywhere between about 350 quid to 600 quid, depending on what design you like and what retailer you buy it from. So yeah, it's just a case of keeping your eyes peeled, having a look for discount codes, having a look for good deals. I wouldn't ever advise buying a second-hand helmet, because you do see them on eBay and whatnot, but for me, that's just not the risk I would be willing to take. Also as well, insurance costs, the next big thing. If you live in London or a big city where perhaps there's a lot more kind of motor vehicle crime, then unfortunately you're going to end up paying through the rafters for the insurance, and that's obviously going to put a lot of young riders off. So quite often as well, I think young people are drawn towards cities. I lived in Manchester when I was in my 20s and early 30s, but now I've moved back to almost like the countryside. I dare say my insurance is probably a tenth of what it would cost if I was still living at my old house in Manchester, which was right near Gorton and Levenshulme, where perhaps automobile crime was certainly a lot higher than Oswestry. So just for context, I pay as a second year rider, age 40, keep this bike locked up in a garage with a U-lock, and I pay about £240 per year, which is absolutely fine with me. But I'm reading through some forums, and I understand that some people even living in London are getting quoted thousands of pounds on for 125s. You're just not going to do it, are you? So I don't know what that's going to bring or what that's going to hold for the future of the industry, because it is just going to put off young riders. I don't even know what the answer is, because quite often if you live in these big cities, you don't have garages or sheds where you can even lock them up in. So, you're even more of risk of crime, I suppose. So we're just coming into a place called Whitchurch now. The plan for me is to go from Whitchurch onto a place called Wem, and then kind of just complete a big loop, and then back to a place called Ellesmere, and then back to Oswestry. So it's probably only going to take me about an hour. But I walked up Snowdon yesterday with my brother-in-law, and I can barely walk today. So I don't want to spend too long in the saddle, because my hips are just absolutely destroyed. Unfortunately, I do have arthritis in both hips, and walking on uneven ground just doesn't help that. But I still had an absolutely amazing day out. We started in Llanberis, and we walked up the Llanberis Pass. We started there about 5 a.m, I think, so it was a very early start for us. And we were at the summit by about 7:45, and that was taking quite a lot of breaks as well on the way up. So I think we did really, really well. So I just spotted a guy on a very old Triumph Bonneville at the back at the garage there, and it just got me thinking that, as much as I love the classic bikes, I think they look amazing, better than the one I'm on even. I could just never own one, and the reason being is that if anything goes wrong with it, which they probably do frequently, if you have a 40, 50-year-old motorbike, then how am I going to repair it? Because I'm part of the generation that just doesn't know anything about mechanics. I don't know if it's obviously there's going to be older people that don't have a clue about mechanics, but I find that a lot of people from, for example, my dad's generation and his friends, they all know how to tinker around with motorbikes, cars, because if anything ever used to go wrong, they used to just fix them themselves. Whereas I wouldn't have a first clue how to do that. So I need to take everything to the garage. And, a lot of garages are closing down these days, dealerships are closing all the time. And, those that are open, the prices are quite high. I mean, to take this to a Triumph garage and get the service done is about 220 quid. I mean, I can stretch myself to doing a service on my own, so I can save that at least. But, if anything goes wrong with it, I'm screwed. I just don't know how. So that's where more of the costs start building up, and that's obviously going to put off young people as well. So we'll just take a right turn here to go towards Wem. I really thought I'd gone the wrong way for a second, but the Royal Enfield crew, some nice bikes there. Really must try and get a test ride on a Royal Enfield soon. I can't believe I still haven't rode one yet. Okay, another point then that I've just thought of, and I haven't prepared this, I'm just talking absolute rubbish, so if I've missed some glaringly obvious kind of factors affecting young riders today, then do forgive me. But the cost of fuel is another thing. Petrol isn't going to go down in price. It's only ever going to go up from here, I think, especially as cars are moving over towards electric. So what's going to happen in 10, 15 years? How are motorcycles going to fit into that? Because all the electric motorbikes I've seen are absolutely shite. The range is just abysmal. You just wouldn't do it, would you? I recently watched I can't remember the actual name of it. It's like one of the long way rounds, Charlie and Ewan, where they went from South America up to Los Angeles on the EV Harley Davidsons, and it just looked like an absolute ball ache from start to finish. And I know that was a few years ago now, but I don't think anything's really progressed all that much, and I don't even think an electric motorbike could be something I'd ever even be interested in anyway, because I like the sound of the engine. I like the rumble, the noise of it, the vibrations, the character. That for me is what it's all about, riding a motorcycle, or a big part of it. So taking out that aspect is just not appealing at all. Who wants to whiz by on some sort of Tron machine? Not for me, that. So I don't know how motorbikes are going to fit into the future. And another point I think, which I've noticed, is that is there enough marketing out there for motorcycles in the UK? I don't think I've ever seen a TV advert for a motorbike. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's something we do over here. Rarely see anything advertised in newspapers and magazines unless they're kind of industry specific. But you always see cars advertised. Also, like dealerships as well. This is one thing that really annoyed me when I was looking for my first bike, is that I couldn't find a dealership that was open on a Sunday. And quite often that was the only day I had free of the week, that I could go to a shop and have a look at some bikes. Now, I did find one in Staffordshire that was open, but that's miles away from me, and I had to like pretty much plan a full day of it to go there. But why aren't every single dealership open on a Sunday? Surely it's the biggest riding day of the year, of the week. So yeah, just a couple of final thoughts really. I think another big one for me, which was not really an issue for me when I was starting, but I did get a couple of like concerned looks when I told people my plans for getting a license, and that's perceptions of motorbikes. I suppose when everyone used to ride them back in the day, in the 50s, 60s or whatever, when they were a lot more popular, the roads were a lot more quieter. So, as time's gone on, cars are just everywhere, aren't they, in the UK? And, the quality of driving is questionable these days. So when I, told people that I'm taking up riding, a lot of people were obviously concerned. Didn't put me off, didn't stop me from going ahead and getting my license, but it might put off some people. And if you're a young rider, perhaps still living at home with your parents, and you tell them you want to get a motorbike instead of a car, then I dare say some parents might kind of try and change your mind. And then last but not least, it's the licensing. I mean, what an absolute disaster. Whoever come up with that? It's just the UK all over for you, in my opinion. It's just bloated, confusing mess. Nothing simple, is it? It's just layer upon layer of absolute red tape and hurdles that people have to go through. I mean, my experience of it, had to do the CBT again, which is fair enough, I suppose. I hadn't been riding for 20 years, so yeah, fair enough. Had to do a CBT day, had to do a theory test, which was all right. I think both of them are valid for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And then you kind of book onto your lessons and do your mod 1 and then your mod 2. But it's just a pain. I mean, if you're a younger rider as well, if you're stuck between the ages of just before you can get the full A1 license, and you have to do the A2 first, you have to go through mod 1 and mod 2 twice if you take up the full license after that, after you hit 24. It's just a con, and obviously that costs a lot of money. It just annoys people, doesn't it? So I think all of that needs to be completely looked at. So anyway, guys, look, thanks very much for tuning in. I just felt like I had to get that off my chest, because reading a few stories and hearing from younger riders on some of the forums I'm a member of, and their struggles to actually get a license and take up this fantastic, incredible hobby, and just to hear the barriers to entry they have to kind of put up with, depending on where you live in the country and what your own financial situation's like, just really annoys me. I love motorbikes. I absolutely love them with a passion, and like anyone else in this country, I just want the future of the industry to be bright and clear, but I don't think that's the case, I'm afraid. And I don't know what the answer is, but anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Check out some of my other content as well. I'm not normally moaning on my road trips. Sometimes there's no kind of conversational piece planned in, and I just kind of take in the sights and talk as I go. So you might find them interesting, but yeah, check them out. Really appreciate it. So yeah, ride safe everyone, all the best, and I'll speak to you all again soon.